Force Network Operations, or AFNetOps, is in the midst of the most significant and exciting transformation in its short history. It is being doctrinally and operationally transformed from a combat support capability into a true warfighting capability. The basis for this change is centered around the Air Force's newest mission element, to fly and fight in cyberspace. To ensure AFNetOps is capable of helping the Air Force deliver sovereign options for the defense of the United States and its global interests, we must continue to consolidate, standardize, normalize, and recapitalize the existing AFNetOps construct. As more and more operations are tied to the network, we must integrate and normalize AFNetOps command and control into the Global Strike Air Operations Center through a unified command structure that delivers efficient and effective net-centric capabilities. As we streamline operations, we will be able to leverage economies of scale and recapitalize on existing infrastructure to bring a truly global entity to the warfighter. However, success within the cyber domain will require more than organizational restructuring. According to the AFNetOps commander, Lieutenant General Bob Elder, success will require a complete shift in the operational mindset.
In Air Force Network Operations, we've begun this transition to treat it as a warfighting domain, and for our Air Force Network Operations warriors, where you're going to see the shift is a move away from just defending the net to surviving the net. The chief back in November gave me personally actually what was called the go-do letter. And with this, he said that the new mission of 8th Air Force is to integrate the Air Force's kinetic and non-kinetic capabilities in support of combatant commanders throughout the globe. A big piece of this is what we do here in Air Force Network Operations. From being let's say, a purely an AFNetOps into the cyberspace domain and start treating it this way, one of the big changes that we're looking at is, again, is moving from being an enabler or a supporting function. In fact, doctrinally we call it a combat support function. So we're AFNetOps, which has traditionally been considered as a support function for warfighting ops, is now going to become part of our warfighting basis and our foundation. And as such, we now are starting to train cyber warriors, which means we're training operators. And the Air Force mission statement talks about flying and fighting airspace and cyberspace. So the idea here is to draw a parallel in cyberspace to what we do in the air and space domains. And so when we fly and fight in cyberspace, what that means is that we, first of all, we absolutely have to protect our domain. So we have to defend our domain. We secondly want to go out and counter our adversaries' use of the cyberspace domain. And then we want to exploit the domain to achieve the Air Force mission. And then so that combination of capabilities would be called flying and fighting in cyberspace. So our Air Force Network Operations warriors are just that. They are responsible for operating in cyberspace and ensuring that the Air Force mission can be carried out across all domains. Our network is operated to support a global operation. So regardless of whether you're a pilot who's actually flying an aircraft and needs to have access to information that might be back in the United States even though you're flying in Iraq or Afghanistan, or you might be a maintenance person, you're working on an aircraft on a flight line and you actually need a part that's located in another part of the world, the way that you access that information is through the systems that are now maintained by Air Force Network Operations. We've set up our network so that we can treat it as a warfighting domain, and we can defend it. We can mass forces to deal with an attacker, and also we can deal with our adversary before they even get to the firewalls. If you try to stand up a new capability like a cyberspace capability, it's a challenging time to do it actually, because the Air Force is reduced in its size, and so at the same time that the Air Force overall is shrinking, if you will, by about 40,000 people, we're growing this area that we call cyberspace. Now, what's interesting is part of what we're doing is we're bringing together a number of areas that are related in a way that just bringing them together, that synergy should increase the overall capability. So we're looking for synergy by bringing together elements of cyberspace. When you think about a cyberspace warrior, this is going to be someone who understands the domain of cyberspace and is able to exploit that domain. The cyberspace warrior of the Air Force is going to be an airman who understands the domain of cyberspace, knows how to defend it, knows how to exploit it, and knows how to deny the use of that domain for our adversaries' use. And that's how we will look for a cyberspace warrior. We're working with Air Education Training Command right now to really start laying out what amounts to a whole new career field that will be cyber operators, and that will be for both officers and enlisted. And we're still really trying to define the areas. You will have an enlisted cyber operator, you'll have an officer cyber operator. We are moving away from network operations being strictly what we do with the computers on your desktop to how we really link together all the weapon systems that enable us to fly and fight as an Air Force. True warriors.